The ruined city lies covered in a thick layer of cloud. The soft patter of rain echoes through empty streets. Amidst the still and silence, a young voice emerges from the second floor of a crumbling building. It's okay. A kiss will make the hurt go away. A young girl gently affixes a bandage to a scratch on her little brother's knee. The pair have been drifting through the ruined city for days, as though running from something. Wet clothes, dry throats, empty stomachs, lost parents. All these anxieties and fears weigh heavy on their minds. Suddenly, there is a quick, faint shudder in the earth. They hold their breaths and grip each other tightly. The ground shudders again. It's getting closer. They grasp each other's clothes as the shaking grows greater, more intense. They know what is causing it, and that knowledge is a horror. But then, the tremors come to a stop, and the bleached white bones of a monster's eyes peer through the building window. Tokyo lies abandoned. A girl and her little brother huddle in a collapsed building, hiding from a monster called Legion. As its earth-shaking footsteps grow closer, the monster's massive face appears in the window. They hold their breath, waiting for it to leave. But no matter how hard they pray, it does not go. After a moment of stillness, the monster wails and leans against the building, where it has apparently decided to take its rest. Though the girl's brother is on the verge of tears, she takes his hand and attempts to lead him out quietly. I'm the big sister. I need to stay focused. Because if that thing sees us, it will be over in a moment. How much longer would they have to live through this hell? As rain pours over an abandoned Tokyo, a young girl and her brother hide in a dilapidated building. The white monster called Legion has crouched near their hiding place to rest. They are attempting to slip away without alerting the creature. But when they open the door, it makes a piercing, metallic scrape. They pray the rain drowns out the sound, but it is not to be. The Legion lifts its head and peers into the building. The girl feels as though her eyes have met the monster's. It has found them. They are going to die. The girl hides her brother in a futile attempt to save him. The monster reaches out, likely to idly crush them with a single massive hand. In a ruined Tokyo, a girl and her brother have been discovered by a monster called Legion. The enormous creature reaches out to kill them. The girl places herself in front of her brother and closes her eyes. But then, the sound of gunfire and shattering rock rumbles through the air. She cautiously opens one eye, then another. The Legion's splintered body collapses to the ground in a cloud of white dust. Moments later, young soldiers in military uniforms rush to her side. "You're all right," says the voice of salvation. This deadly game of hide and seek has lasted for days. The girl's brother begins to bawl as he is released from overwhelming unease. As the young girl holds him tight, powerful emotions well up from the depths of her heart. She wants the strength to protect what is most precious to her. And at the same time, a girl stands on the deck of an escort vessel docked at a military harbor. Clad in a military uniform, she gazes up at the sky. It is the same girl from the abandoned city. She now stands in the warm sunlight, lost in thought. Years have passed since that day. She is no longer a scared little girl, but a soldier. "The general is asking for you, Captain," says a boy in the same uniform. She turns around, smoothing hair mussed by the ocean breeze. "I'll be right there," she says softly. The girl walks into the ship's control room and finds a number of officers gathered. None are older than 20. All wear the same worried expression. The general, the same one who has summoned them here, begins his brief in terse tones. "In our previous operation, some of you retreated from the front line without my orders. The purpose of the previous operation was to capture Legion. Legion are white monsters with bone-like shells, and the greatest threat humanity has ever known. The organization the girl belongs to was formed for the sole purpose of eradicating Legion. Talented personnel have been gathered from across the world to dispatch the monsters wherever and whenever they crop up. Just a few days prior, the girl and her squadron engaged multiple Legion in battle. But faced with greater enemy numbers than anticipated, several of her soldiers lost their nerve and ran. Now, those same soldiers sit in the briefing room with sweat running down their bodies. The general opens his mouth to scold them, perhaps even punish them, when the girl suddenly speaks. "I issued the order to retreat, sir," she says. Her squad turns to look at her in surprise. She issued no such order. It is a lie. Yet she tells it in order to protect those who serve beneath her. As the leader of this squad, our failure is my responsibility alone. If there is punishment to be had, permit me to take it in their place. The general stammers in the face of his subordinate's sudden confession. But he quickly regains himself and informs the girl of her punishment. Her squad will be assigned to maintenance and cleaning duties about the ship. Said vessel's purpose is to transport some precious cargo overseas. The ship must be fueled and prepped for the journey, then made ready to depart with all speed. Though the girl and her squad are combat personnel, they will now be used as the most base of laborers. I expect this ship to be ready to depart by nightfall, continues the general. Once preparations are complete, return here. Should you fail, a number of your squadron will be discharged, no matter where the true fault lies. It is an entirely unreasonable demand, but the girl only nods. A moment later, she and her squad gather around a map of the ship on a nearby wall. The girl runs her finger across the map, calling out names as she glides over each room. When everyone has their assignments, she turns to depart. "Begging your pardon, ma'am," says a young squad member. "But the jobs you gave yourself are terrible." The boiler, the morgue, the sewage tanks. The girl has taken on the most demeaning and horrific tasks for herself. "Oh, I didn't realize," she responds with a smile, before dismissing her squad to their work. They say no more as they scatter to their stations. The girl makes for the morgue straight away. Here she finds bodies of those who perished during the voyage, having suffered grave injuries in the last battle with the Legion. She follows the medical team's orders and disposes of the bodies, praying they might find peace in the next life. Afterwards, she moves through the ship, taking care of preparation, maintenance, and cleaning in each of her assigned areas. Footsteps echo throughout the ship as her squad rushes to and fro. Crew members offer cheerful greetings as they slip by in cramped hallways. A warm, comfortable breeze blows through the ship as it prepares for an arduous voyage. Once she is finished, the girl makes her way to the control room, where the deadline is looming. If she is even 1 second late, the general will dismiss her squad mates without mercy or recourse. After a moment's hesitation, she pushes open a rigid door to take a shortcut to her destination, and finds herself in a storehouse far too large for the ship. In the center lies a sturdy cage that contains the massive Legion they captured the other day. This is the creature to which so many of her squad lost their lives. In an instant, she understands the nature of the ship's precious cargo. She gazes upon its white body, covered by a shell that looks like it might belong to some manner of crustacean. Part of it is stained a deep red, perhaps because it absorbed blood. The left arm is cracked and shattered like porcelain, damage sustained in the recent fight. Images of her squad mates being torn to shreds replay in the girl's mind. The Legion's head moves slightly as it turns to look at her. Its eye sockets are empty. But when their gazes lock, a different emotion roils inside of her. She feels as though it sees straight through her, and so looks away. Less than 2 minutes remain until the deadline. The rest of her squad has finished their tasks, and now waits for the girl in the control room. 50 seconds left. 30 seconds. None can hide their unease. Their entire lives, now lie in her hands. With 10 seconds to spare, the girl bursts through the door. "Sorry to cut it so close," she says with a grin. Though he seems disappointed, the general announces there will be no further punishment. Muttering his displeasure, he leaves the control room. Seconds pass after he leaves. The remaining squad members exchange glances before bursting into a raucous cheer.
Yeah!
"We knew we could count on you, Captain," they say. Some laugh, some shed tears. They crowd around her, reveling in a shared joy. The girl has always been willing to place her life on the line for her squad. She is skilled in both martial and intellectual pursuits, as well as capable and kind. She is, in short, the finest leader any of them could ask for. And as the sun dips below the horizon, its few remaining rays shine over them as though giving a blessing. After finishing refueling and maintenance at the military harbor, the escort ship sets off across the ocean. The girl gazes at the cloudy sky through the windows of the officers' quarters. 4 hours until we get there, she murmurs quietly. Guess I've got time to read. The whole squad enjoys a rare bit of downtime as they sail. Their mission is the transport of a massive legion to a foreign research facility. Once there, it will be researched so anti-legion weapons might be produced. It is a vital mission, one which may well lead to the end of the battle between humanity and the Legion. Once they dock, they will have to transport the creature overland. As it is likely they will encounter more of the Legion, the girl and her squadron are under orders to guard the cargo. With their lives, if necessary. The squad is painfully aware of this truth. But for now, they rest to regain their strength. Suddenly, an emergency broadcast echoes through the ship. Alert. All personnel report to the control room immediately. A minute later, the crew is lined up neatly in the control room. They all wear serious expressions, their relaxed moments from the beginning of the voyage a forgotten dream. The general informs them the ship has received a request for support from their destination. The harbor was attacked by a horde of Legion with no warning, and they are presently engaged in a fierce battle. Their ship has been asked to aid in the fight. If possible, they will assemble a vanguard unit and dispatch whatever Legion remain once they make landfall. A most dangerous mission indeed. The general pauses, clearly preparing to ask for volunteers. But the girl takes the initiative and volunteers to lead the charge. The moment she knew someone was being attacked by the Legion, remaining on the ship became untenable. She quickly issues orders, assigning her unit various tasks. Some prepare first aid kits in the infirmary. Others ready a submarine for infiltration. She leads the rest of the squad to the armory. They gather black swords, handguns, grenades, and communication devices. Though the squad grumbles about having their rare moment of downtime interrupted, the girl does her best to put their minds at ease. Once they are outfitted, they prepare to leave the armory. But then something shakes the ship. Something massive. As an alarm wails to life, a voice crackles over the PA system. We're under attack. We've got 10 Legion on the deck. 20. There's more. More are coming. Someone get up here and... There is a crunching sound, followed by a blood-curdling scream. Then silence. The ship is under attack. But why? Why would the Legion be attacking a vessel so far out at sea when the creatures live on land? It is a baffling situation, and panic immediately sweeps over her squad. What's going on? We're nowhere near the harbor yet. We need to get on deck now. A window shatters. Metal groans. Why are they even here? Why is this happening? We're gonna sink. We're all gonna drown. The girl moves to each soldier in turn, calming them. Once they have themselves under some semblance of control, she whirls around and rushes to the main deck. Though she has survived countless battles with the Legion, this is a scenario she has never before encountered. She prays her unit can somehow remain safe as she flings open the door to the main deck. As she does so, the top half of a human torso comes skittering through the door and down the stairs. One of the Legion stands on the deck, its arms covered in fresh blood. It howls, its voice terror incarnate. She has never seen such a creature before. A carapace clings to its back. A hard shell covers countless thin legs and tentacles. Fin-like protrusions wriggle from openings across its body. It is a monster that has adapted to life in the ocean, a kind of crustacean. And now it and its fellows are launching a surprise attack at sea. Legion clamber their way up the side of the ship, shattering windows and wriggling their way inside. Screams ring out. Horror reigns. No, whispers the girl. Not here. Not like this. I won't let you. As one of the monsters turns in her direction, she tightens her grip on her sword and prepares to fight. An escort vessel has met with an ambush at sea. A horde of Legion crawls from the sea and into the ship. But on the main deck, a girl and her squad fight back. The sound of machine gun fire is incessant, deafening. The girl deftly dodges wildly flailing arms. After several hundred shots, the creature finally falls over and lies still. But they can find no joy in subduing a single foe. The girl asks her fellow soldiers to guard the deck, then makes her way inside to take out whatever has infiltrated the ship. She prays to save as many of her squad as she can. She runs through the ship at full speed. Each time a cry for help comes over her wireless system, she runs for the source. She knows the layout of the ship like the back of her hand. When she moves, it is always along the fastest route. Suddenly, one of the Legion juts its head into the hallway in front of her. Without stopping, she draws her sword and leaps into the air. Her blade flashes like a meteor. Sword meets sheath as she lands. As she continues her mad dash down the hall, a head thumps to the floor. The girl fells several Legion by herself as she moves through the ship. Using her handgun and precise marksmanship, she pierces the skulls of smaller enemies. She explodes Legion heads by kicking ammunition meant for the ship's cannons. She is the distinguished leader of an elite unit whose sole purpose is to eradicate the Legion. And now, all of her skills are being put to the test. Each time she clears out a new area, she checks on the survivors. All who can still fight are sent to the deck to help ward off further attack. The despair in people's eyes slowly clears whenever they hear her voice. She is a single ray of hope in the gloom. As she and her squad form up, they slowly push the Legion back. The ship is barely holding together. Casualties are great, but if they can keep it up... She mulls over the situation as she runs down another corridor. Suddenly, there comes the high-pitched shriek of metal, followed by a violent shudder. "Status report now," cries the girl into her comm. The news is even worse than she feared. The hull of the ship has been torn open, and water is rushing in. For a moment, just one, she closes her eyes. What should I do? How many will die? Still Legion. I have to locate the enemy. Is everyone safe? I have to protect. How do I have to help everyone? Despair fills her being, threatening to overwhelm her. Her heart beats faster, faster, faster. Sirens wail throughout the escort vessel. A hole has been torn in the ship's hull, and it is beginning to sink. The survivors are mired in despair, but the girl alone refuses to succumb to it. She activates her comm and speaks to whoever is left. All crew, abandon ship. I repeat, make for the submarine and abandon ship. This is an order. All who are able drop what they're doing and race for the submarine. Minutes later, roughly 40 souls are gathered in the hangar. It is less than half the number they started the voyage with, and the girl will not permit any more to be lost. The survivors clamber into the submarine. Once they're safely inside, the girl looks up at the lone figure beckoning her from the open hatch. "No," she says. "I'm staying here." "Captain, no. Don't say that." As the soldier reaches for her hand, a legion tears the hangar door from its hinges. Suddenly, the meaning of her sacrifice is clear. If she does not stop the remaining legion, the submarine will never get clear of the ship. She orders the submarine to push off as quickly as possible. "Don't die, Captain," she hears over her comm. "We'll come back for you." "All right," she replies with a grim smile. "Now go." She turns her back on the sub as it begins to slip free of the ship. Fearsome howls echo through the hangar for a time, as well as the clash of steel on bone. The creatures almost seem to be mocking her. Later, she knows not how long, she steadies herself against the wall of the hangar and looks out at the trail of dead. Her bones are shattered. Her body is pain. But she is not finished. She still needs to escape. As water fills the halls, she finds herself losing the sense of up from down. But then, a deep rumble fills the air. Something is coming. And she knows precisely what it is. Their cargo, the entire reason they set off on this transport mission, slowly rises up before her. The massive legion has rent its cage asunder and is now wandering the ship. This is what tore the ship apart. Water rushes in. Every movement is agony. An enormous foe looms in her path. Yet in the face of this hopelessness, the girl smiles. She drops low and swipes her blade at the Legion, her wounds forgotten. She dodges the arm it brings down and plunges her blade into the thin joint between bones. She is glee. She is delight. This is her secret. One she has kept hidden ever since the day she awoke in Tokyo. The city was a gray ruin. It was the day the organization saved the girl and her brother from the Legion. As she cradled her sobbing brother, she turned her face from him. Because she was smiling. The girl suffered from a stress-induced psychiatric disorder, one that developed as a result of constantly protecting her brother. This illness led her to volunteer for increasingly dangerous assignments. Like when she shouldered punishment in place of her squad mates. Or when she volunteered to lead the Vanguard after receiving the SOS signal. Or when she single-handedly rid the ship of Legion. Each time, the stress of the situation sent waves of ecstasy flooding through her system. It's over. But now, her chest fills with an unfathomable emptiness as she stands atop the Legion's shattered corpse. She gently lifts the monster's decapitated skull in her small hands. "Thank you for amusing me," she says before pressing her lips to an exposed piece of bone. The ship slowly slips beneath the waves. A girl clings to a broken secret amidst a broken world. And a metal vessel carries this secret into the depths. Moments later, the waves wash quietly atop one another, as though nothing was ever there at all. And the rays of sun that shine between the clouds bathe the ocean in a soft and fleeting light.
The city is an empty gray expanse. A uniformed group marches through the rubble-strewn streets, a 20-person platoon dispatched by the organization. One boy, quiet by nature, walks behind the rest. His eyes suddenly drop to his feet, and what he sees there steals his words away. White powder is strewn over the pavement, blown here and there in the wind. It is salt, but this is no ordinary mineral. This has come from human corpses. White chlorination syndrome. Those afflicted by the disease find their fate in one of two ways. One, their bodies turn to salt and they die. Two, they lose themselves and become monsters called Legion. The quiet boy makes a sound then, a small yip. In an attempt to avoid the blowing salt, he has lost his footing. But he does not hit the ground. A uniformed girl behind him grabs his arm, effortlessly keeping him upright. Shocked by her strength, he opens his mouth to thank her. But her mouth widens in a mischievous grin, her crooked teeth on full display. You tripped on nothing there, man. Goddamn, you really are the feeble kid. The boy draws a breath to reply, but finds himself too intimidated to speak. Cut it out, says another girl as she twirls her red hair with a finger. Us rejects need to get along. The girl with crooked teeth turns her savage gaze towards the redhead. Who you calling a reject? You? Me? All of us? Haven't you noticed? This platoon is made up of underachievers. She speaks the truth. The platoon is comprised entirely of rejects. This mission is their last chance to remain with the organization. But the girl with crooked teeth does not accept this. I bet the people up top are worried about the reject platoon, so they stuck me here as insurance. The platoon's mission is to venture into an unexplored area and find a specific individual. Said individual is a researcher. Eyewitnesses claim that though he is afflicted with white chlorination syndrome, he retains his mental faculties. They must find this man. If they do not, the platoon will be out of chances. Hey, come on, says a small boy with uneasy eyes. Stop fighting. This boy knows the girls will argue forever unless he intervenes. His voice is nasally, his eyes twitch. He is the very picture of a coward. The girl bares her crooked teeth at the cowardly boy and hisses, sending him scuttling away. The quiet boy gives the rowdy trio a sidelong glance. Sighing, he turns his gaze to the sky and examines the gloomy violet cloud that hangs low over the city. It's coming. He knows this. He has known it since they first set foot in the city 2 hours and 42 minutes ago. Rain is on the way, a torrential downpour with lightning, wind, and fury. The quiet boy hoped conditions would improve, but it is not to be. Guys, he says, if a storm is incoming, they need to change their route. But no one replies. Instead, they come to a sudden halt and fix their eyes on a spot. Color slowly drains from their faces. Legion, whispers a platoon member. Their voice is despair. A skyscraper stands on the edge of collapse, its metal frame bared to the open air, and behind it, Legion. This is the fate of a person who becomes infected with white chlorination syndrome and loses control. Its outer shell is hardened bone, a cross between an insect and a crustacean. And it is easily over 130 feet tall. Fear and bewilderment raced through the platoon. They had no warning so massive an enemy might be waiting for them. Humans of flesh and blood, and rejects at that, stand no hope against it. It is so unreal, the platoon has trouble accepting it. The Legion slowly turns to look at them. Time is short now. As a single screaming mass, they turn and run into a nearby ruin of a building. Behind them, the monster's howl causes their ears to bleed. The building in which they sought shelter shudders, scarcely holding together. The Legion is attempting to smash the building and everyone inside it. The platoon members shudder in terror, their minds threatening to break at any moment. All except the quiet boy. His breaths alone remain measured, steady, calm. He stares out the window and thinks. Beyond the shattered glass, small droplets of rain quickly turn into a torrential downpour. Flashes of lightning illuminate gray clouds, followed by thunder nearly as loud as the Legion's howl. Suddenly, realization strikes. He knows how they can escape, and more than that, how his platoon of rejects can defeat the Legion outside. I have an idea, he says. The cold steel in his voice instantly stills the panic rippling through his fellows. Prompted by their gazes, he begins to explain. He tells them how they can get out of this despair, about his 1 in a million bet. The platoon hesitates at first, but they eventually realize it is the only hope they have. At least, it's better than waiting for death. The quiet boy runs up a set of collapsing stairs to the roof and looks down over the city. Positioning himself somewhere with a clear view of the city below, he begins issuing orders that he hopes will get the Legion's attention. First up is the cowardly boy, who bursts from the building and begins to run. He is the swiftest of their group. He is the lure for the Legion, the bait. His fellows make sure the path is open for him. The girl with crooked teeth uses superhuman strength to remove piles of rubble, creating the shortest route to the target location. The rest of the platoon helps as best they can, clearing a path for the boy as he races past. The Legion lumbers after him, growing ever closer, but just as it is ready to reach down and rend the cowardly boy in two. "Hey, dummy, up here." The red-headed girl's voice echoes around the ruined city. From atop a nearby roof, she fires a bullet that knocks the Legion's hand away. Every member of the platoon knows what they must do, and they give their all to the effort. All is going according to plan. Because the quiet boy understands the strengths of his reject platoon. Finally, Coward and Monster arrive at a suspension bridge on the verge of collapse. A gaping hole yawns beneath it. Aging wires extend from worn-out towers, barely holding up the bridge deck as it sways in the storm. The bridge groans as the massive creature steps upon it. A flash of lightning streaks across the sky, covering the empty city in blinding white light. The entire platoon looks up as if in prayer. A loud rumble rips apart the sky. Lightning has struck the bridge's supporting tower. Wires twist and snap as the deck begins to give way. The cowardly boy dashes across the undulating surface and leaps to safety. But the Legion is not so coordinated, and it stumbles to the side. As it does, the bridge finally gives way, plunging stone and wire and beast down into the abyss. It wails as it falls, giving voice to madness. Though it is unlikely to be dead, the Legion will not be crawling up anytime soon. The platoon rejoices at the quiet boy's brilliance. He knew lightning always strikes the highest point. So he had them lead the Legion to the bridge in hopes a bolt might strike one of the towers. It was not so much a strategy as a last gasp, yet when he proposed the idea, everyone trusted him completely. There are no casualties. The reject platoon lives on. And in that moment, they all begin to praise their newfound savior. A platoon of rejects has been given a mission. They are to find a researcher who is afflicted with white chlorination syndrome, yet retains his faculties. On the way, an unexpected enemy appeared, a monster known as Legion. But they worked together to overcome the threat. Or so they thought. Come in. I repeat, come in. Do you copy? Over. The quiet boy stands atop a skyscraper. He speaks into his wireless communication device and attempts to issue orders. Yet the only responses he receives are the death throes of his platoon mates. They are the last thing he hears before communications cut off entirely. They avoided one Legion threat, but a total of 6 were lurking in the area. The quiet boy has strategic prowess. His companions have hidden powers. Yet, a mere 20 of them cannot hope to take out multiple Legion. They requested backup from the organization, but none is coming. They are cornered now, trapped, doomed to annihilation. He hears his companions screaming for help before Legion howls drown them out. Unsure what to do, the boy stands frozen. He prays this hell might pass him by. A sudden quiet descends like a hammer. The rampaging legion goes silent. Then they whirl about as one and begin marching away. They retreat before cornered prey. The boy does not know what is happening. Regardless, it is a miracle. His prayer has been answered. His surviving platoon mates slowly make their way to him. They cradle bloody corpses in their arms, remnants of their fellows. 13 corpses lay on the floor of a ruined building, including that of the cowardly boy. He was quick and agreed to act as bait, but he was not fast enough to escape the other legion. And when they caught him, they tore him limb from limb. "This is all your fault," cries the girl with crooked teeth as she grabs the quiet boy by the collar. Her bloodied face twists into a scowl of rage. "I knew we never should have followed the feeble kid." The feeble kid. The organization's commanding officers use this insult whenever they want to ridicule the boy. And he can never argue with it. "Enough," says the red-headed girl. "The Legion retreated. We've got a chance." The other girl snarls in response. "You know they only retreated because they were responding to something, right?" The girl with crooked teeth's lips tremble in fear. This means there might be a red-eye nearby. Red-eye. The nickname for intelligent legion, those whose eyes glow red. They have the ability to control other mindless legion, which makes them infinitely more terrifying. The thought that a red-eye might be in the area makes the quiet boy drop his gaze. When he does, his vision alights on the arm of the girl with crooked teeth. He sees white skin in the tears of her sleeve. White, like salt. "Your arm." At his words, she looks down at her arm and gasps. Those affected by white chlorination syndrome meet one of two ends. They either turn to salt and die, or become legion. Her face twists in despair as she realizes the future that awaits her. And she is not alone. Of the 7 survivors, 3 are infected. Legion, red-eye, white chlorination syndrome. The platoon has been plunged into the depths of despair. But there is one hope. If they can find the researcher who has white chlorination syndrome and yet retains his intelligence, then maybe, just maybe, they can be saved. "We keep going," says the quiet boy. "Now let's move." A platoon of 20 has become 7 after a battle with the Legion. And 3 of those are infected with white chlorination syndrome. Those afflicted by the disease find their fate in one of 2 ways. They either turn to salt and die, or become monsters called Legion. Yet the platoon has not surrendered hope. The organization has given them a mission. They are to find a researcher who is afflicted with white chlorination syndrome, yet retains a sense of self. If they can do this, they may learn of a way to best the disease. They believe because they must. Twilight. Boots clack over a cold floor. The smell of chemicals moves through the boy's nose. The platoon slowly picks their way through a research facility. The researcher should be here somewhere. They were lucky not to encounter more Legion on the way here, or the red eye that controls them. But as they venture through the facility, disappointment colors their faces. The corridor is quiet as the dead. Clumps of salt lie scattered at their feet. The girl with crooked teeth walks beside the boy. Though her expression remains haughty, her hands, white with disease, quiver slightly. The red-headed girl speaks to her kindly. It's okay. It's going to be okay. We just have to find the researcher. After wandering the halls of the Silence facility, they find the researcher's name tag. It rests atop a pile of salt in the shape of a human. The boy turns away from his despairing companions and reaches for a sheaf of research documents next to the pile. He flips through the pages and finds accounts of white chlorination syndrome. There is no going back, no cure. Once a person contracts the disease, there is no way to recover. With that, their last thread of hope goes taut and snaps. A researcher who retains his wits despite the disease? It is nonsense, madness. All the boy can do is chuckle. The Legion, white chlorination syndrome. After battling for so long against despair, this is what greets them. He crumples the documents in his fist and begins to roar with laughter. A fist of white. There are 7 survivors, all of whom are now infected. Their bodies no longer obey. All they can do is huddle together in the darkness. The backup they requested is nowhere to be found. They cannot proceed, and they cannot go back. "Hey," says a small voice, breaking the silence. It is the girl with crooked teeth. "Sorry for calling you feeble, kid." Her apology delivered, she slowly begins to tell about herself. As if she is looking back on her life in the face of oblivion. She wanted to do more for the organization, but she didn't get along with the brass, and before she knew it, she was labeled a reject. "Sounds familiar," chuckles the redhead. Nods move around the room. All of them are a slightly different version of the same story. At first, they all dreamed of being outstanding members of the organization. But once they were labeled as rejects, loneliness crushed whatever hopes they once had. Yet, as they sit in this place and slowly turn to salt, they find themselves filled with a shared happiness. If this is to be their end, at least they are able to share it together. "What about you?" asks the girl with crooked teeth. "What did you dream of?" She turns to the quiet boy, who thinks carefully for a moment. Then he answers, "I wanted to be a person worthy of my older sister." Beyond the window, the large moon hanging in the night sky casts a faint rainbow across the clouds. The boy's calcified hand catches the light and shimmers like a crystal. Looking over the room, he sees the same pale glow surrounding each of his new friends. There are worse ways to go than this, he thinks, as he lets his eyes slip closed. Morning comes. He wakes to a scream. The girl with crooked teeth is no longer smiling. Instead, she has torn the throat out of one of their companions. Madness has taken her. She will become Legion. The red-headed girl turns her gun on the thing that was once her friend. But she cannot pull the trigger. The quiet boy bites his lip and shuts down his own emotions. He snatches the gun away and shoots the maddened girl through the head. 5 now remain, including himself. They all thought they would sit in that place and wait for death. But as that shot rings out, something happens. The organization's reinforcement helicopter finally arrives, the rumble of its landing shaking the facility. A voice comes from static. "Do we have any survivors here? Please respond." The boy replies in a quiet voice, gazing at the corpses of his comrades as he does. 5 living, and with nothing to show for it. They are taken into organizational custody, leaving the salt-drenched facility behind. And though they have lost much, despair has been held at bay for the moment. They are a small platoon of rejects sent into battle by the organization. Though white chlorination syndrome encroaches on their bodies, they have returned home from a Legion-filled hell. Despite paying a heavy price, they have obtained a key piece of information. The researcher who was said to retain his intelligence while living with the disease does not exist. Once it is contracted, there is no way back. In a deep recess of the organization's base, the boy lies on the floor of a cage. His skin is white, frozen. He can no longer move. The disease has almost reached its end. How did things end up like this? After risking their lives for the mission, all that awaited them were endless tests in a cramped and filthy cage. Dimly, the boy hears a woman scream. He slowly turns his gaze outward. A four-limbed monster thrashes wildly. She used to be a girl with red hair. How did this happen? He hears more sounds, a door opening, boots on cold tile. The boy's commanding officer and subordinates have entered the room. He stares at the monster as it thrashes. "This experiment is a failure," he murmurs. "Kill it." There is a gunshot, and another, and another. Each time, the monster's screams shake the darkened room. By the time it falls silent, the boy's vision is bathed in red. Words of animosity choke from his whitened throat. "I hate you." Their mission had been a lie. The researcher had been a lie. The mission's true objective was to send the platoon into unexplored areas to see if they would catch white chlorination syndrome. At which point, the organization could observe its progress. The red-headed girl had figured it out some time ago. After being taken off to one room or another, she'd gone a look at some files. The night she told him, a large moon had hung in the sky, just like the one he'd seen above the research facility. She quietly tapped on the ground as she spoke. "We're experiments. That's it. That's all." The boy did not believe her at first. But now he understands. They were just cogs in a great wheel of deception. "I have to thank you," says the commanding officer. He stares down at the boy with cold eyes. He goes on to explain that the appearance of the Legion had been a surprise. They thought the platoon would be wiped out, but when the boys saved them, the mission, the experiment, was able to continue. "Sadly," concludes the officer, "we have fewer samples than initially estimated." The boy does not know how long he has been here. As his body weakens, his hatred grows. It is an angry emotion, red. "We just wanted to do our best." The officer tilts his head at the words. "What are you talking about, feeble kid? You did do your best. These experiments will serve our better personnel quite well indeed." The smiles of his companions flash through the boy's mind. They all dreamed of helping the organization, but now those dreams have been scattered to the winds. In that moment, something snaps deep inside the boy. The light in the room turns red. Sirens begin to wail, signaling a Legion attack. Screams echo throughout the base, followed by the wet sound of rotten fruit thrown against a wall. The commander and his men are baffled and afraid. Things are moving far too fast for them to control. Suddenly, the door is torn from its hinges. White aberrations, Legion, tear chunks from fleeing researchers. Meat slips from bone like a glove leaving a hand. Blood, slaughter, death. A feeling settles in the boy's chest as he watches from his cage. It is not fear, nor is it despair. His small, dry laugh slowly grows louder. He guffaws madly as he writhes on the floor, laughing and laughing until he is covered in blood and vomit and bile. The feeling is delight. These people had ridiculed him and his comrades, called them rejects, toyed with their lives, and now the bill has come due. At last, the Legion stands before the boy. Its aberrant hands tear open the cage with ease. But he is not afraid. Instead, he closes his eyes and patiently waits. And waits. And waits. But the end does not come. Instead, the Legion kneel before him and bow their heads. Bowing before his bright red eyes. Kill them. Kill the enemies of our gods. Kill them all. Voiceless thoughts fill his head. When he hears this, he finally understands what he has become. Red Eye. A being who exists to control the Legion and end humanity. It is his presence that brought the Legion here. The boy, the Red Eye, slowly gets to his feet. The commanding officer huddles in the corner. He slowly strides over to him. "Please," cries the man. "No." He looks at the boy and the Legion behind him as he begs for his life. The man will do anything to live, including flattering the enemy of all humanity. "I always knew you were special. I knew it. And you could use that power for the organization. You're nothing like those rejects. Nothing." His platoon mates, his friends, were all dead. Yet even now, this man cannot help but trample upon their memories. This would have never happened if you didn't send us into that God-forsaken place. The Legion rips the officer to shreds. The boy grinds chunks of meat beneath his heel as he strides out into the corridor. Legion perch atop unidentifiable corpses, bowing to the boy as he passes. He takes them into his procession with a smile. When they find a living member of the organization, he kills them. It is revenge. Revenge for himself and his companions. Revenge for being named rejects. Revenge for being discarded. At last, silence descends over the base. There is no one left to slight the boy. This place belongs to the Legion now. The boy approaches a bowing Legion and gently runs his hand over its body. His crimson eyes turn to the window. The brilliant moon hangs in the clear night sky, shining over the bloody fortress as though in celebration.